A widely referenced anecdote is you're driving and you pass a car wreck and you don't want to look, but you kind of do want to look, but you don't want to look. But what if somebody's really hurt? And you're, That's what these Leavitt press briefings are like. You don't want to look because you're going to get upset and it's going to be nasty. So nasty, as Trump would say. But at the same time, like this first clip, some really funny things can happen. South Korea just elected a new president, a center-left candidate. And Leavitt got asked, we have a bunch of stuff from this press briefing, and it'll serve as kind of jumping off points for different things I want to inform you about. But first, about this South Korea election, she gets asked and goes, yeah, I have something to read out for you. No, I don't. Thank you. Take a look.
Does the White House have a reaction to the results of the election in South Korea?
Yes, we do. In fact, let me find it here for you. It should be somewhere in here. Thank you. We do not, but I will get you one, Jeff. Go ahead. Thanks, Karoline. 2 questions.
I love so much that she goes, I do. And she clearly sees on her page, thank you. And she goes, thank you. Right here. Listen.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, I don't. Never mind. I'll get one to you. I promise. Interesting result, though. I might probably will mess up the pronunciation, but in South Korea, Lee Jae-myung, elected president of South Korea. Mr. Lee cruised to victory on Tuesday after his predecessor pitched the country into chaos with a brief declaration of martial law. He's of the center-left Democratic Party, won the South Korean presidential election on Wednesday, riding a wave of anger against the former president. And you can see very big things happening. Now, these press briefings are disastrous for many reasons, and terrible and horrific and catastrophic every time, because we have who's supposed to be the spokesperson for the president who goes out and just makes up stuff and says lies and all those things, okay? And those things matter. And she refuses to pronounce Trump's name correctly. And finally, the world is catching on to the true scandal.
President Trump sounded the alarm over these reckless Biden policies.
I saw that Aaron Rupar said President Trump and then went, wait, apparently Karoline really just can't say Trump.
Law and order is back in America under President Trump.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty iconic. It's pretty iconic. If you appreciate this show as we continue forward, please do click the subscribe button. Half of our viewing audience is not subscribed. Pretty bonkers stat if you think about it. So President Trump is doing many good things. One of them, Karoline Leavitt wants us to know, is that a massive plummet in fentanyl seizures has happened. Now, there's some important context I want to give you after this clip, but she is angry at the Washington Post for describing that plummet as mysterious. And she says it's all because of President Trump.
Very first briefing, several months ago, I said I would hold anyone accountable in this room. The Washington Post actually had this headline, the mysterious drop in fentanyl seizures on the U.S.-Mexico border. How is this mysterious? There is no mystery about why there is a decrease in fentanyl coming into the United States. This administration's strong border policies are the reason there has been a decrease in fentanyl trafficking. His strengthened relationship with Mexican President Sheinbaum and all of the measures he has been taking to...
His strengthened relationship? Haven't y'all been really upset with each other? Okay. You remember we make fun of sometimes the MAGA timeline. Do you remember whenever they were saying that Biden weaponized the government and censored Trump during the 2020 election? And it was sort of, wait a minute. The future Biden went through a time portal to censor Trump while he was president, or Biden used his presidential powers before he was president. It was a similar thing here. The reason for the plummet in fentanyl seizures at the southern border is because of President Trump, even though that plummet started in 2024. Which is a part of the context. A really good piece out of the Washington Post examining a really important issue. The mysterious drop in fentanyl seizures on the U.S.-Mexico border. Now, first thing that should pop in your head is plummeting seizures isn't necessarily good, right? Usually you would think, okay, seizures, usually you can use as a barometer for how much is getting past the seizing, how much are they missing based on how much they're getting. So it could be really good. But here, a really important metric that is undeniably good is the plummet in overdose deaths in the United States. You saw it shooting up, and then it sharply declined in the last year of Biden's presidency. And if you'll take that down just to quickly go through some of what this article examined. If any of the efforts by the Trump administration are contributing to this, now there are things they're doing that could worsen overdose deaths, but if anything they're doing is contributing to, in 2025, we saw, again, a really sharp decline. That's good. It could be good. Again, the seizures component hopefully is good. Does that mean that cartels are just finding ways without it getting seized to get in the United States? The overdose deaths will really give us a sense of that. But there's different parts. So the cartel dynamics right now, the Sinaloa cartel is engaged in internal conflict. So that could be hindering them. And President Sheinbaum has pounced on that to go after some of the top leaders. Then precursor chemical shortages were examined. If you want more details on this, just go find the Washington Post article yourself. The one scary component is, are they adapting their smuggling tactics such that a lot is still getting in, as we know is happening, but more than normal, and it's just not being seized? That would be the bad answer. Changes in drug use patterns, and then public health interventions. That's the part that the Trump administration could have a negative impact on if they continue cutting off funding to drug treatment, which can help to minimize overdose. But if we continue to see that plummet in overdose deaths that we saw at the end of the Biden administration, then that's just good. And then I'll root on the Trump administration, as terrible as many of the things they're doing are, to pounce on that as much as they possibly can. But it's definitely not as simple as, oh, it's because Trump is so perfect. It's not that. We know. And wouldn't you imagine if they have more resources at the border, they would be seizing more fentanyl? No, there's something a little bit more systemic as to why less fentanyl is even, we are now assuming, is even being attempted to get across. And that is a trend that started before. And then we're seeing a sharp decline beginning of 2025, which is good as well. So credit if there's credit to be due. That's not the phrase, but you get the point. Then on this thing we talked about in the morning broadcast, where the acting FEMA director said, there's a hurricane season? And really? And Leavitt says, it was a joke. Come on. They're being funny. Like, Trump, he posted the thing about how Biden's really a robot. So his acting FEMA director was like, hey, maybe during hurricane season, as the FEMA director, I should say there's a hurricane season, because that's funny, right? I don't get the joke, but okay.
Kelly.
Good afternoon. We're now in hurricane season, and obviously there is great concern every year about the potential for that. Can you speak to how the president is planning to have the level of support, should it be needed, to be as it has been with a reduction in the workforce? And is he still comfortable with Administrator Richardson, who had talked, whether joking or not, about not being aware of a hurricane season for this country? What is the president's level of briefings on what may be required? If you could give us kind of an overall update on that.
Sure. Well, of course, we know that we are into hurricane season now, and I know FEMA is taking this seriously, contrary to some of the reporting we have seen based on jokes that were made and leaks from meetings. But Secretary Kristi Noem and the FEMA leadership are all over this. They are committed to ensuring that federal resources and tax dollars are there for Americans in need.
Trump's literally trying to dismantle FEMA. As she's saying that, he's actually trying to do that. So it falls a little flat, especially when they're denying a lot of assistance requests from states. Washington Post reports the acting head of the Federal Emergency Management Agency was joking when he said that he didn't know the United States had a hurricane season. Jaden, tell me that you don't know that the United States has a hurricane season.
I'm not really sure that the United States have a hurricane season.
That's good. They're doing humor, I guess. More on this.
About hurricane season appropriate, though, now that this is serious business, as you talked about?
It's serious business, Kelly, and I'm not going to engage in such fodder with a question like that.
That was a weird usage of the English language. Okay. So maybe the acting director of FEMA is not the best choice, especially in hurricane season now, but this is an administration of not the best choices. Here is this. There's a lot about this clip. I don't want to spend a ton of time on it before getting back to the press briefing, but this is McMahon, the Education Department Secretary. McMahon, what's her first name? Something McMahon. You know who I'm talking about. From wrestling. And just this whole exchange with Mark Wayne Mullen is, I don't want to use the phrase, but brain rot.
Very much.
Senator Mullen.
Thank you, Chairman.
Linda McMahon, that's her name. Linda McMahon from WWE.
Senator Mullen.
Thank you, Chairman. Madam Chair, what's the definition of insanity?
Of sanity or insanity?
Insanity.
Insanity?
Yeah.
Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome.
Right.
That's definitely not the technical definition, but whatever. Yeah, that's a quote.
And what was we ranked in reading and math in 1979?
Well, I can tell you that while you're asking about reading scores, you can't say what was we ranked. Come on. Mark Wayne, what was we ranked?
And what was we ranked in reading and math in 1979?
Miss McMahon. Miss McMahon, what's the definition of sanity? What was re-ranked? Oh no, this is not good. I don't feel confident.
And what was we ranked in reading and math in 1979?
I'm sorry, what?
What was we ranked nationally in math and reading in 1979?
We were very, very low on the totem pole.
We're number one in 1979. Today,
Oh, in 1979.
1979.
Sorry. Okay.
In 1979, we were ranked number one around the world.
Yeah, I don't even think that's true. I was trying to find the numbers he's talking about. There weren't really the rankings he's talking about from a quick search. And also, we made gains in those scores since then. And then fluctuations and then problems. And there's problems, of course. But I've said it before, there's so much we need to do to enhance education. But there is a myth that we're bottom of the totem pole now. That's not true. U.S. News and World Reports or whatever, or maybe one of the institutions that ranks these things ranked us educationally at the top, not with reading and writing scores necessarily, but the whole picture. But then other scores are worse, and we have struggled, as many countries have, post-pandemic with the setbacks. But they're, I guess, putting forward these problems that are real, particularly bad in red states, by the way, to justify trying failed policies on the federal level that have failed students in red states on the state level, like dismantling public education. So none of it makes sense, but that whole clip is just a total nightmare. And he goes, in 1979, that thing he did get out of his mouth clearly, and she goes, oh, bottom of the table. Oh, 1979? Oh, I thought you said, what? What did she think he said? What you said, the year you said. Oh, right. Yeah, we were number one, which is like, what? And then again, Linda McMahon struggles with this question.
Madam Secretary, and I'm not a great mathematician, but I think you were talking about $1 trillion. I believe 1.5 billion times 10 is $15 billion. That's a little bit off from $1 trillion. But
I think the budget cuts $1.2 billion.
Well, 1.2, that would be $12 billion, not $1 trillion.
Okay.
Fine.
What is happening? What is happening? No. I think it's 12 billion. That's less than what you said before. Let's go back to the press briefing. We're having fun. We're smiling. We're laughing, right? This is terrifying. I'm terrified. These are our leaders.
Immigration system for that reason. Sure.
Thank you, Caroline. I just wanted to follow up on your statement last week regarding the MAHA report. Sure. You said that there was, you said I understand.
So this question is about the MAHA report, and it is specifically about how in the MAHA report they cited a bunch of studies. Great job, right? Studies, linked, footnoted. It was perfect. Only problem, some of them were fake, weren't real studies. They didn't exist.
Fake news.
So that kind of hindered it, but don't worry, it was a formatting issue, said Leavitt.
I understand there were some formatting issues with the MAHA report that are being addressed, and that report will be updated. We also understand that since that, there have been some citations that came about. There's citations of studies that either did not exist or did not back up the report's conclusions. So when you were referring to formatting errors, is that what you were talking about, or was it, could you just explain that?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. There were formatting errors, and those errors were updated by the proper policy components here at the White House, and a new report was issued. So exactly what I said took place. Sure, go ahead, Alec.
Are we really allowed to call that formatting issues when you cite fake, non-existent studies? Is that formatting? Formatting sounds like, we forgot to put a title, you know? Or, like I said before, we used the wrong font, or the font was too big. Fake studies? Formatting? I don't know. Doesn't sound right. But okay, this next question's good too. We're going into Pride Month. Some people are suggesting we should change it to Family Month. Is Trump going to make a proclamation on that? Or Veterans Month, which connects to what we talked about before, which is that MAGA keeps saying it's annoying we have a full month for Pride Month. Which, by the way, you don't have to do anything if you don't want to during it. Guess what? Guess what it can be in your life? June. Just June. That's all. Don't worry about it. Hey, if you're mad about it, don't worry about it. But they say, but we don't have a month for the troops or for veterans, even though we have a military appreciation month in May, the month before. They don't know about it, though.
Yeah,
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Congresswoman Mary Miller suggested that changing Pride Month to Family Month. I would personally like to see maybe a nuclear family month. Some people are saying, let's get a Veterans Month. Does the president have any plans on making a proclamation, or is it just going to be June this year?
Well, there are no plans for a proclamation for the month of June, but I can tell you this president is very proud to be a president for all Americans, regardless of race, religion, or creed. Reagan, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline.
Okay. There is a Veterans Month. I mean, military appreciation, so all active and former military members, but they just don't know that. Then on senators speaking out against Trump's big, beautiful bill, she says, yeah, he stands by the fact that Ron Johnson and Rand Paul, are wrong.
Caitlin. Two questions for you as well. On the big, beautiful bill, you said recently that it is, quote, blatantly wrong to say that it adds to the deficit. You essentially said that an estimate from the Congressional Budget Office and other scorekeepers you believe are wrong. But Republicans like Ron Johnson and Rand Paul disagree. They are saying that it will add to the deficit. That is their concern. Is the White House's position that those two Republican senators are, quote, blatantly wrong?
It is. Those senators, it's not news that they disagree with this president on policy, and the president has vocally called them out for it and for their not having their facts together.
Yeah, so they're some of the few senators who want probably a worse bill because they act like they support the tax cuts, which are the reason that this is going to increase the deficit. But they're saying we just need to cut even more from. You'd have to cut so much from spending, so much. You would probably cause an economic spiral. It would be so bad to be able to offset the tax cuts. And that's what they want. But at least they're being honest about the fact that indeed this does increase the deficit, no matter how many times she repeats that. Now, this is a really funny. I just watched an episode of How I Met Your Mother, where Ted, okay, so there's a character Ted, is getting married, and his friend is worried that he doesn't know the woman very well. And so the friend's asking Ted different questions. What's her eye color? What's her favorite food? And then says, and Ted doesn't know the answer to any of the questions because they're getting married very preemptively. And so then the friend says, does she have any hobbies? And Ted says, yes. She's exactly the type of person who would have hobbies and interests. Man, I'm a lucky bastard. And that's what goes on here. The reporter goes, Are we going to see the text? Because it's been a while since you announced this UK agreement, trade agreement, but we still haven't seen it. Like, you said it, but we haven't seen it. Is there text of that you can make available that you're going to submit in any official form so we could see this great deal you made with the United Kingdom? To which Leavitt says, yes, it's the exact type of deal that would have text and footnotes and specifications.
Thank you, Caroline.
You're welcome.
It's been just about a month since President and Prime Minister Starmer announced...
Can't see you all the way back there. Phil's head is in the way. There you go.
So it's been just about a month since Prime Minister Starmer and President Trump announced that the U.S. and U.K. had reached a trade deal,
right.
or at least a framework for a deal. Now there are at least some conservative MPs in London who are complaining that Parliament has not yet seen the text of any deal. So I'd like to ask you from this side of the pond, is there a text for the deal ready to be released, submitted? And if not, when can we expect it? And then I have one more.
There's most definitely text with this deal. There is language that this side has seen. You'll have to ask the UK Parliament why they haven't seen it from their own government. I obviously can't answer that.
It is the exact type of deal that would have text. It would have language. It would have nouns. We might have put a semicolon. I don't know. You'll have to wait and see, but we might have done a semicolon. We don't really exactly know when to use it, but it looks kind of cool when you do. That's really funny. Yeah, there's text. Okay, can we see it? Man, I don't know if you can handle seeing it. Okay. Then about the 90 deals in 90 days, and we've gotten like 2 announcements of tariff reductions in many days.
Reuters was reporting that there is a letter that is meant to be sent to other countries, which would give these countries a deadline of Wednesday to produce their best offer on the trade matter. Why does the administration feel the need to send this letter? And I have one more follow-up on trade.
Sure, I can confirm the merits in the content of the letter. USTR sent this letter to all of our trading partners just to give them a friendly reminder that the deadline is coming up. And they are in talks. Ambassador Greer, Secretary Besson, Secretary Lutnick are in talks with many of our key trading partners around the globe, as you know.
And she says trading partners. It's interesting. Maybe it's just an R thing.
No, Brian, I know the Wall Street Journal has covered this quite heavily, and they continue to be engaged in those discussions. And this letter was simply to remind these countries that the deadline is approaching and the president expects good deals, and we are on track for that, I will emphasize.
Okay. Aaron Rubar said, we've gone from 90 deals in 90 days, to sending letters to other countries, pleading with them to negotiate, which seems to be what this is, sending letters saying, tell us your offer, I guess. But I thought y'all have been negotiating. Why? There's just none of it makes sense. And then finally she said,
with President Trump in charge, the days of criminals being put over victims are over. On the top,
the days of criminals being put above victims is over. Except for the people that Trump is pardoning, I guess. That's where I'll leave this one. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Talk to you next time.